Okay, does everyone have their eggplant in the oven?
Yes.
In the oven, but I'm not sure that it's been 20 minutes.
That's okay.
Kind of
So,
stuck it in there while the oven was still heating.
and that's okay. The whole purpose of getting in the oven early is so that when we peel it, it's not just molten lava burning your hands. But what we're looking for is when it comes out, it should be, when you press on it, it should be very soft. Almost like deflated. So that's the goal we're looking for.
Can you hold it up one more time?
Yeah, of course. Put a glove on because mine just came out of the oven, so it's still very hot. So you want it to see how it's deflated? Wow. Yeah, but when you take it out of the oven, it'll be puffed up. You could just press on it though, and it should be jiggly and wet. And then you leave it out to kind of continue to steam and cool, and that's how it kind of gets to that point. This is the same, that roasting method is the same thing I do when I make baba ganoush, is I roast the eggplants whole like this because the pulp is just so amazing when you peel it and eat it with a little bit of salt. It's incredible. I do it for sandwich spreads. I use it, I chop it up and serve it with like a roasted pork chop. It's awesome. So one of my favorite ways to do eggplant is just this whole roasting. I first did it on a wood, when I was working on a wood burning oven, and that's when I really got the smoke kiss and it picked up all that flavor. And I started doing it in regular ovens, and it's still just equally as delicious. It's missing obviously the wood flavor, but it really preserves nicely and keeps all those juices in. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to make the salsa. Now, the salsa isn't necessarily something you're gonna have to follow step by step with me on because it is super easy. The more technical part is gonna be when we cook the scallops. So even if your eggplant's still roasting, I could start making this, you'll see, and you'll be able to put it together like nothing. I'm gonna tilt my camera down just so we can get started on the salsa and get that out of the way before we really focus on the skills part, which is the scallops. So I have my eggplant and I have my roasted tomato, and they're both still pretty hot. But the nice thing about roasting is you can just pull the skins right off then, see? Now you don't have any uncomfortable textures in there that you don't want. And then the same goes for the eggplant, except for the eggplant, I cut the top off, and then I'll just peel. See that?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, like I said, this is very hot. So you're gonna want yours to cool. But it's too good of a salsa to not, make it for this class. Ideally, I try and pick recipes we could do start to finish together, but some techniques just take a little more time.
Oh, you made it? It didn't come made, you made it.
Oh, no, I made it, yeah.
I'm gonna take the eggplant and just chop it up. And I mean, it's pretty much like mush at this point. So it chops super easy. And I just want it in decent sized chunks, kind of like a salsa. It's gonna break up more when we put it in the bowl and mix it. And then I'm gonna do the same with the tomato, but I'm only taking the outer parts because I don't want to get all these seeds and this hard core in there. I want this to be a nice salsa with a good mouthfeel. So this is what's called a tomato concasse when you peel it and roast it down. And this
Jeff, did you take the skin off the tomato too?
I did. It just pulls right off.
Okay.
Why not a Roma tomato?
You could do a Roma tomato. I like the beefsteaks just because they have a little less acidity than the Romas, and the walls on them are a little meatier, meaning the sides of them. So, yeah. But you can use, I use Roma tomatoes when we make pureed blended salsas all the time. They're great tomatoes. So that is the most difficult step of the salsa. Do you think you guys can handle that?
We're ready.
All right. So
We're ready.
All right. I'm going to add the balsamic in, and the balsamic's just going to kind of marinate the eggplant and the tomatoes. I'm going to tear the basil right in here. And I like to tear it because it keeps it bright, and tearing kind of just opens up the aromatics versus cutting, which more smashes the leaves. But a good tear of some basil, and it's okay if your basil has a few little brown spots from the cooler. It's going to fragrance nicely anyways. And then I'm going to season with some salt. And salt, this is completely to your liking. To me, eggplant takes a good amount of salt, so I end up putting a decent amount. But I'm going to mix this together. It smells incredible. And I'm going to leave this aside for right now. And just kind of let this hang out and marinate a little bit and do its thing, and it'll be ready to go for the scallop dish when the time comes. For the record, it looks disgusting in the bowl. It's supposed to. So if you're making, you're like, this doesn't look very good, then you did a good job.
And you didn't put any of the oil in there. You just put the.
Get it out.
No, so it depends on how juicy it is. So sometimes I'll add a touch of oil. But because this eggplant was super juicy when I peeled it and there's a lot of liquid in here, I don't want to add any more additional liquid.
Okay.
If the eggplant and tomato are a little drier, like you roasted them a little longer, I add a little bit of olive oil for some body, some mouthfeel, a little bit of moisture. Let's get rid of this. And now, so if you ask any of the cooks here, my obsession is scallops. And I'm going to turn this up so we can talk about it. There we go.
So is John's.
Yeah, seriously, because I don't like to eat scallops. I don't. But when they're seared properly and they have that golden brown crust, I love them. I love them to pieces. But other than that, I cannot stand them. So like in the wigwam, the saute cooks, I will stand over them as they're cooking scallops and they just laugh because I obsess over it. I'm like, no, longer in the pan. No, don't move it. No, wait. No, add butter. No. So I'm going to show you how to do it without butter, but I'll explain the times I put butter in and why I do it too. Because, and if while you're cooking it, if you want to add butter, you could, but it's both ways are good to go. So let me grab the scallops out from the cooler.
Yes, you'll still try the butter?
I don't know.
Okay. So we got some big, giant, beautiful scallops here. Now, scallops have a lot of water to them. And obviously water's our enemy when, oh, I gotta wait till Dawn comes in.
Are these sourced from Foley's?
No, so these are Hudson Canyon scallops. And I found these a few years ago through Supreme Lobster. They called me and they're like, hey, we got these new scallops. You want to try them? Like, okay. And they're, in my opinion, they're my favorite scallop, honestly. I mean, they are so good and they cook really well and they taste phenomenal. They just have a natural sweetness and they don't get slimy. Like some scallops get a slimy exterior. You can tell they're fresh because they're not. They're tacky almost. But they do have a lot of water. So what I like to do before I cook scallops or most fish in a pan is I pat it dry with a paper towel. Okay. And that is going to take, you can't really see because the camera, it's going to take a good amount of water out of these. And that's going to help our caramelization process when we start it in the pan. So you don't want to put your scallops in a ripping hot pan because contrary to popular opinion, the hotter the pan does not mean the better the scallop's going to caramelize. You want a preheated pan, first of all, so that the pan has time to temper and adjust and do what it has to do. But if you go into a ripping hot pan, you're going to burn the edges of the scallop before the center part gets any kind of caramelization. And that's really just going to ruin what we're going for. The other thing is you don't want to season your scallops too early. So I salt these right before I put them in the pan because if I put salt on, the first thing that's going to come out is water. So it's going to start to pull water out of there and then it's going to slow down the caramelization process because water will keep it from caramelizing. And my pan's heating up. I'm going to add enough oil to healthily coat the bottom of the pan. So I want to make sure there's some good movement, but I'm going to put something in here. So I don't want to totally flood it so it's frying, but I don't want it completely dry, but we could always add more oil. I'm looking for a heat level where when I hold my hand over, I can hold it for about 5 or 7 seconds before I'm like, okay, that's a little too hot. But I don't want it smoking, if that makes sense. I know I keep giving you guys both, but I told you I'm pretty serious about scallops. Now, there is a good way to test. You could take the non-presentation side of the scallop and just dip it in the pan. If it kind of jumps up at you like that, then we know it's time to go in the pan. So I'm going to season the scallops. I like just salt on them. Especially with these scallops, I love the scallop flavor to come through. And then when I place them in the pan, I want to make sure that they're spaced apart. And this is important because, again, these are going to give off a lot of steam as they cook. So the more steam they give off means that the less they're going to caramelize. If they're close together, they're going to end up steaming instead of searing. And like I don't like a handful of bay scallops thrown into a pasta. I don't think that's very good. I think that when you get this proper caramelization, you're going to see a huge difference. So if I want to, and sometimes I'll use butter as my fail-safe also, I would add butter about a minute into this cooking, and that the milk fats from the butter are going to help give an even more like harder char and sear on here and a stronger crust. For these ones, we're not gonna, because I want to show you this way as well. But the other time you would add butter is, say your scallops are starting to stick, where you're like, okay, they're getting too dark around the outside. A small pat of butter, like a teaspoon of butter, is going to add just enough liquid and hydration to this oil where your scallops will free up, which is going to help preserve your crust on the scallops.
And so, sorry, we're putting salt on before we put them in, even though you mentioned that it gives off liquid when we do that?
Correct. You're putting it on right before you go into the pan.
Okay, thanks.
If you pre-salt ahead of time, then yeah, that's going to happen. But if you salt just before you go in the pan, it's going to help prevent that. And now I'm monitoring my flame. I don't want to see too big of browning on one side of the scallop. And if I do, I'm going to turn the pan, or I'll move the oil around a little just to help kind of even that heat through the pan, because we are still dealing with fire. And fire moves and breathes and kind of dances around. So by taking our time and allowing this to kind of caramelize properly and moving the oil around, we're kind of controlling the uncontrollable situation. Now, I could take a scallop right now and I can move it. If it sticks, I can rip it, and it's not gonna caramelize properly. But these are already starting to get a really good color. See?
Yeah.
And it's all, cooking scallops is all about patience. Patience and paying a touch of attention. But when you get it right, now if I pull this back one, it's starting to get even darker in certain areas. So I'll just rotate my pan. And that's gonna move the heat that was focused here to this side of the pan instead of this side. The other thing about scallops that people get really nervous about is, are they cooked? Well, when I cook scallops, I don't ever put them in the oven. They just don't need it. You're in a hot pan with oil. They're only this thick. They are going to cook really quickly. So what I'll do once I hit that caramelization I'm looking for is I'll flip them in the pan and just turn the pan off and let them finish cooking in the pan. Because I've gotten all my texture and I don't want to overcook them and get that like leathery kind of scallop flavor. You want that succulence and that little bit of iridescence to it. So let's see what we got here. So you can see these things are starting to look gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it just takes patience, time, controlling, your situation by moving the pan around, enough space between the scallops, because you can see all the steam that's coming out of here. So I'm actually going to take my scallops and flip them. Oh man, these look amazing. And now I've turned my heat off, and I'm just going to let these sit in the pan.
So how would you do bay scallops?
So bay scallops, they're small. They work really well for a quick saute. They're great marinated raw. They work well in a pasta. I don't like them, is what I was saying. So, like for me, a bay scallop is just like I don't know. I don't prefer it. I don't prefer the flavor of scallops, except for if they have this caramelized sear on them. So I would do bay scallops by throwing them real quick in a pan or finishing them in a pasta in the very end, so they can kind of poach in some of that sauce. But I don't cook them at home. So let's go back down a little bit here. I need a cameraman.
This is a weird question, but can you reshape the scallops? Because like some of my scallops are like squished and falling over.
You can to a point. Normally you pick the side you sear based on the better looking side. So like this scallop here, see how the other side has kind of a split to it? So yeah. I seared the smooth side. So my scallop technically is staying together in one solid disc. Now to know if they're cooked, when I press on them, they should have a pretty solid spring. It should kind of feel like, I don't really know how to explain the amount of spring to it. But I guess if you go to your second finger here, so my ring finger and my thumb, and press right here, that's kind of the spring we're looking for in the scallop to know that it's done. These are cooked. These are completely finished, cooked through.
Make them all the way, are you?
So then what I would do, are you guys already cooking your scallops?
We're not yet. We're waiting for our eggplant.
Okay. Is anyone cooking their scallops right now?
I am.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll wait till yours are done in case you have any questions before we plate.
I'm cooking my scallops because my stuff is still in the oven. I did a bad order of operations today.
That's okay.
Is your, when you're cooking your scallops, is it all sizzly in your
Yeah.
pan?
Yeah, it's not, it's constantly just like a little dance of bubbles and the oil's moving around.
Is this what you want? Like this?
That is amazing.
Wow, that's pretty.
That looks gorgeous. That's perfect.
Wonderful.
You get an A+.
I get an A+. That's called what?
What's your question?
Now, Emily, how are yours looking? Oh, she had me muted because she's over there swearing at the scallops.
No, I am swearing because there was too much oil dancing around. And once again, I picked the wrong size pan. So I got a second one. I have 2 pans going of scallops right now.
Well, that's good because now you can practice twice.
Yeah, I've got some Leaning Tower of Pisa type scallops happening.
So normally if your pan is preheated properly, what you'll see as you cook scallops more and more, when you put it in, it'll stick immediately and it won't topple over on you. And then as it starts to caramelize, it'll hold where it needs to be.
I think what I did, because I got 2 orders, I consolidated to put them in the refrigerator and the scallops smushed. And I haven't been able to unsmush them. So they did stick a little bit to the pan, like you said, but they're just a bit askew from being too cozy inside a single box, I think. Maybe.
They'll be delicious.
But then how is everybody else going to get an A if someone isn't getting a C or a D in presentation? So there's got to be, I got to round the curve out a little bit.
Thank you for handling the bell curve. I appreciate that.
You know, I'm good. I'm happy to be the sacrificial lamb in this event.
All right. So let's talk about plate up. Plate up is super, yes.
I was just going to ask, we're not doing the scallops yet because we're waiting for our eggplant. But it looked like your heat was not even halfway up. It looked like it was between low and medium.
So it was, and I danced my heat around a little bit, but it depends on your stove. I'm on a cheap little campsite, butane burner. On a home stove, which has a lot more BTUs, you're probably going to start on just a medium heat and give that pan 5 or 6 minutes to heat up and just keep it at that medium level that entire time. And then if you see it's going too fast, you drop it to low, but you don't want to go too low because then you're going to stick.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Of course. So now for plate up, we're just going to put that salsa right on the bottom of the plate. This stuff smells so good. And I love balsamic and scallops. I feel like they're just such a great pair. And then the scallops right on top. Now, when I take them out of the pan, I normally like to dab them on a towel just because they're sitting in this oil and I don't want all that grease on my plate. But these things, they're caramelized perfectly. They look great. That's it.
What kind of wine would you like with this?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question. Because the eggplant's kind of the hard one in there. It's hard to pair wine with eggplant, in my opinion. But because there's balsamic in there too, I think maybe a Zin would go well with this. Or a light Pinot Noir, I think would both kind of fit nicely with the scallops. Because the scallops, once they get this char, they have a really nice meaty flavor to them. And then you have the balsamic and the roasted eggplant. So yeah, I would say a very light red, I think would go really well.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions? John, how are yours coming out?
Oh,
It's
they're-
weird. It's weird. A couple of them are perfectly brown and a couple are lagging behind. So I'm
16 minutes.
You're rotating your pan. You know why? It's because you haven't been in class in like a week. You've been skipping school. So
I'm glad I'm not the only one that, is coming up from the remedial behind kind of thing.
And Chef, I just realized we have 3 Johns, so.
Yo, yeah, I didn't realize that either.
I'm using a convection setting on my oven to try to speed up the roasting of the eggplant and the tomatoes.
Eggplant.
Is it better to let them just regular roast to get a little?
No,
bit
I've
more
done
time?
them in a 900 degree wood burning oven. I've done them in a
Oh my
400
God.
degree conventional oven. It's going to do the same thing.
Okay.
You see that one?
Oh yeah, that looks great.
All
It's got
right.
great color.
Dun, 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 dun.
Emily, you got what yours up too?
There you
Look
go.
at that.
Ooh, lovely.
That's what I'm talking about. Those are restaurant quality scallops. These things look awesome, guys. You guys should be super pumped because people don't know how to cook scallops in restaurants, let alone at home. So it's good to see. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy your dinner. Awesome job. Those scallops look great. And now you've got another fish technique under your belt. We've done salmon, Dover sole, scallops. Impressive.
I look forward to next week.
All right. So
I don't
me
know
too.
what I don't know what it's going to be. Has it already been posted?
It should have come out in E-line today.
Oh, today. Okay,
Yep.
so I'll check my email.
Awesome.
Ought to be fun. Okay.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chef, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.